Alright, hey guys, what's up? Itchla coming back to ya with a very super duper special episode of Walks Witchla, and I'm hoping that everything goes according to plan with this. I guess I should really just hold the phone, but that seems like a little bit silly to do. I don't know, I was kind of hoping to, well, no, I probably just can't. It's probably just not worth it. I just don't want to risk having it in my pocket and anything accidentally get pressed or something like that. Only because, I don't know, I guess I just get kind of paranoid about the recording getting fouled up or something, but we should be good. I guess I'll just check on it from time to time. I guess that's how we'll do it. I was gonna put it in that pocket, but that's no good. Yeah, it looks like still running. I guess I'll just periodically check it. And I mean, worst comes to worst, we just lose some of the recording. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So, for the time being, what we have to do is figure out how to get home. Which I'm not, dead lost, but we're in fairly uncharted territory. So, yeah, as I expected, it's gonna take a little bit over an hour. So, we have... Oh, actually, no, I probably don't even need this, actually. I actually probably don't. I actually probably don't need the directions. So we'll just put those away and yeah, just get walking, I guess. So yeah. Anyways, so guess I just want to double check one thing. Sorry, just give me a moment. Alright, so what we were talking about last was this idea about like competition and how I think it's yeah, well, I don't know. I just can't figure it out right now. I don't know. It's just just some concerns about what I was doing, but it's like, I just don't know. Just not sure what to think, really. But yeah, I don't think I really need the directions. I think I'm pretty much going to be able to figure out where I'm going. But yeah, I just hope I'm not doing like the wrong thing or anything like that. We'll see. I suppose time will tell. But yeah, competition. Sorry. So now we're... Oh, I should start the walk too. The walk workout. Yeah, I should have already done that, but that's okay. Let's just check the recording one final time. This will hopefully kind of be a pretty good firm check for how it will. Yeah, it looks like we're still running 5 minutes in. Apologies for all that. And yeah, so it is what it is at this point. I don't know. Can't do anything about it now. But yeah, I thought I was gonna need directions, but actually, I don't think I'm gonna need directions. So that's pretty good. But it's gonna take an hour to get home. I don't know if I walk faster, I can shrink that at all. We'll find out by like however long the audio ends up being. Like if it's longer, then, you know, you'll know how long it took me to get home. Yeah, it's just, I guess the problem is humans being like animal in nature. You know, we really just don't know what to do with ourselves other than kind of like fight and compete, eat, sleep, you know, the usual things. Like we don't know what to do with ourselves, right? And that causes problems. Causes problems because you develop and you get to this point where you can kind of envision like a society without those things, but it's almost like, I don't know, humans don't really want to get there, and maybe it's difficult for us to conceive because you get to this point where you're like, well, like if that's what you're doing as an animal, you know, you fight, you kill, you eat, and then in the world you compete. It's what you do. When those are gone, it's like, what's next? I don't know. Like a lot of people kind of lose their minds, I think we kind of see now that a lot of people get into these lives or these patterns where you do see them sort of like transcend past a competitive state, right? You're kind of seeing that now with, well, you know what, there's potential for it. I don't think that it actually happens. A lot of the people who have the opportunity to kind of like transcend or be past a competitive state, I don't think they actually get there. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. They just don't end up doing it. People pursue drama or discord or whatever, I think automatically. I think there's like a boredom in peace for a lot of people. And that's one of the main speed bumps in getting, there's a better word than speed bumps, I'm sure. But it's one of the main problems in achieving like improvement, because I just don't know that everybody actually wants things to be improved. I think people like to complain about things, and complaining about things and struggle and all these things, I mean, they build character, they build like a personality to the world or whatever. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. I feel like that should really make a lot of sense. You know what I mean? And so when you are implementing and creating a system that can eliminate that, it eliminates people's purpose, or at least like most people's purpose. And I think that's kind of the assumption with these systems, is that people, the people who are rich or successful, like they're there for a reason, and then it's all like, it all works out. Like, I think that's what a lot of people assume, but I think that's evidently incorrect. As you can see just through reality now, there's a lot of, unfairness in society. At least I see it. And there's a lot of rich people who definitely shouldn't be rich, and poor people who shouldn't be poor. I guess another issue too is it runs up against some religious ideology in a way, because some people like to say, oh, well, God has things the way they are for a certain reason. And then how do you square that with, like, I'm trying to dictate who should have what? And I think a lot of people don't like that. And I mean, it's true. Obviously, I don't really know exactly who should or shouldn't have what. Like, that's not really what I'm trying to say on an individual basis, but I'm saying there is a plethora of indicators that, we kind of know the resources are pretty misallocated at the moment. Like, it's just something's wrong, And so I'm not like saying as like an individual basis, like, this guy's crazy, but we kind of know what's going on. I don't know. And I think there's like, again, that elitist intuition to think that that's why we have the system we have, where you only have a few rich people because it's only a few rich people that actually deserve it. But I don't know that that's really true, right? Because it's just like, I just don't know that that's true, obviously. I think you still really would see like an improvement if a lot of the rich people now were stripped of their wealth, and then a lot of poor people were actually lifted up to replace them. You could see very dramatic and different trajectories for humanity. I think other people might argue, though, that the same conclusion is kind of always apparent with humanity. It just seems to be kind of like a par for the course situation. Humans always end up in a certain place in a certain way, and you even have examples where, let's say, for a time things are good, but then eventually you're going to get like a bad leader, and the bad leader is going to like ruin everything, So it's kind of hard. Like, I think a lot of people would say what I'm doing is just fighting reality, but I guess I just disagree with that. I think at this point we really do have the potential to fix these issues. Like, the main thing I say is, it's 2025. We should have guarantees in life. I think that actually creates like a much better society. Good insurance policies and things like that. If you're a person and for sure, if you work hard and if you choose to be in a role that is like very beneficial for society, that's like good if that's a guarantee. Because if that's guaranteed, you're going to be so much more likely to bother to do it. Whereas what you're having now is a lot of people are just quitting and they're kind of dropping out and like not really doing much because we're unmotivated. We're like, why, you're getting to the point where the cost of schooling is so high, you're going to have like less money if you go to college. That just doesn't make any sense. You can't have a society like that. It's just not going to work, It just won't. And that's obviously a huge problem. I don't really think I need to explain why, but it's the truth. It's definitely the truth, right? You want to motivate those things. Or again, it's even little things like the anxiety of modern life is the awareness of life itself, where, every time you drive, or like, same with like health insurance, with car insurance, when these things aren't guarantees or taken care of, I think it's likely that that's conducive for a worse society. I know there's like disagreements about this. Some people, they make the argument that you have to, no, like you can't do that. Like it's important for people to have to earn their own. And I actually agree with that. I think there's a lot of ways where you should kind of cause people to have to like see what they're costing and be accountable to that. And maybe that does make sense, because for a lot of people, that's probably just not going to happen. Basically, like if you, I guess that does make sense, because a lot of humans are just going to take it for granted. Even now, I see people taking things for granted. But see, that's always what I circle. So I've had this conversation in my head like so many times. It's always what I circle around to. It's like, then I start thinking like that, and I start thinking, oh, well then, America's system, maybe it makes sense somewhat. But then I realize it's like people are less healthy in America than like Europe. I'm pretty sure, like across the board. And that could be due to their health care, but I actually don't think it is. And so that kind of makes like the whole idea stupid. Because it's like, I don't know that because health insurance is costing so much, like that's not making people in America act any differently at all. Like I know so many people in America who aggressively don't take their health seriously, and it's almost to the point where, isn't it basically like a joke at this point that Americans don't care about their health? I mean, I just don't, like, what is the end point here? And it's about as aggressive and meritocratic as possible in America. Like, it's basically over-meritocratic, because you're basically at a point where institutions have been made up that make it like more expensive than it would be naturally. Because that's like another thing, is some people probably just don't understand that, and so that's not really fair for obvious reasons. It's like, they don't understand that. They just don't even know. Like, they don't even figure out how the systems like that, because again, a lot of people don't understand systems, so they just live within them. But yeah, it's like over meritocratic in the sense is you're paying extra for things as a result of systemic greed and bloat and stuff like that. And so that doesn't even make any sense, right? But most people probably don't think of it that way. But I think that's like really my main argument, is I would like to see some data if there's really any clear example of people even caring or understanding that principle very well at all. Because I kind of think people don't. Like, I'm pretty sure if you look at like across the board data about it, I think Americans compared to Europeans, I would assume there's really very little difference, and it's probably just due to one simple fact, and it's that most people just they're not really aware of the system they live in and how it works. Like, even Europeans probably just have like vague ideas of it, and then it's just like a human problem of like pretty steep ignorance about things. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's all I really have to say about that. Because I always think about this in my head, how, like, yeah, I mean, it does make sense in certain cases that you, like, if something happens to you, you should just have to pay for it. But a lot of times it honestly doesn't. It, like, really doesn't. It makes, like, next to no sense that it would even work in that way, right? Because if you're, like, born with something, then that's not your fault. Maybe it's your parents' fault. But then if you're using that logic too, like if it's a genetic illness that you end up having to pay for, then your parents could just say it's their parents' fault. And then, like, that doesn't make any sense either. At the end of the day, I think that's like the main thing to grapple with, is it is just kind of like a eugenic system in America where people are just okay with letting people die. Maybe there's some kind of... there has to be... I mean, it's a mixture of things, but there has to be some kind of like a philosophical or like ideological bent to it. Being a more religious country, some people probably believe that, vaguely they may believe that bad things happening to people is like a purpose thing. I don't know that just like happens like that and it's justified. That's like a possibility. I don't really know, like, because that probably is less apparent in more atheistic societies, I would assume. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I'm saying I think with the presence of religion, it's likely that more people feel that way. And there could be other ideological slants to this as well that I'm not really considering at the moment. But I don't know, I guess that's my main thing that I think of is like the thing I just said. Where some people might, I don't know, but it really is, that is what it is. It's kind of like a eugenic way of thinking, or like a survival-of-the-fittest way of thinking. But I think the problem with that is what happens when, somebody who is like pretty smart ends up getting the sore end of the stick, right? Like, then that doesn't really make any sense. Then that's kind of just like crazy, that, because then that's not even like a survival of the fittest thing. That's just like everybody gets the same dice rolled, and then because somebody's like a drunk, crazy driver, they end up killing somebody who is actually a competent member of society. And then it just doesn't matter. Like, the competent person who has like a ton of potential and stuff like that, they just get, again, like the short end of the stick. I thought I was going to really need this winter coat, because it was like really cold earlier, but it's like not even cold now. So I'm losing my mind. I mean, I know a part of that is just because of walking and stuff, but seriously, like, I have no idea. This like way too hot. I'm like overheating. I was trying to muscle through it, but there's no way I'm going to be able to wear this coat. Bringing this coat was just like a huge mistake. I thought, I may have to put it back on after a while. Maybe it was just like too heavy. Let me try to check on the recording real quick, just to make sure we're still rolling. Yes, we are. Everything looks according to plan. It's only been 24 minutes so far, so I wonder what the current estimate is. because we can recheck the checker to kind of get an idea for the pace that I'm going at. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I always have this conversation with myself in my head. And it's like, maybe you could just make an insurance where you're only accountable for things that are like out of your control. And that could kind of get calculated or something. Does that kind of make sense? Because I feel like it could. Now it says only 34 minutes. So since it's been 24, yeah, so we're actually like at a pretty good pace. So, all right. It is what it is. That's not really that big of a deal, actually. I guess I thought this was going to be like harder than it is, but I don't really think so. I mean, I could change my mind as we get like closer to the end of it and I kind of start to get tired and annoyed or whatever, but for now I'm actually feeling like pretty fine. So, you know, it is what it is, but I feel pretty okay about things. Anyway, yeah, I've had this conversation in my head a lot of times, and that just doesn't make any sense to me, because like that's basically how it is now, where, you know, you can get denied coverage for something that you should have coverage for, and then I just think it matters more like if there was a way to calculate like, does this person deserve it or not? I guess that's really what I think is like the valuable question, because it's like that is relevant. I don't know. I think that is relevant, because but then you think about it too, like, I guess it's possible even the drunk driver that causes some terrible thing to happen, what if they are actually a really good person, but they're just in the wrong place, you know, and if you just let them go, they could have became someone great. I guess it's just really unlikely, you know, but you have to wonder too, like in a more caring society, if that kind of stuff would even happen. Like, is that a result of America's general apathy for life? You know what I mean? I don't know, like that's just kind of what I'm thinking. Because a lot of these problems may be prevented, you know. But yeah, like I just wonder about that, because again, it doesn't seem like really holding people accountable seems to matter that much for like people in America. A lot of people here still just do a bunch of crazy stuff, so it's just I don't really know how to square that, and so I wonder if that thinking really even matters, because the whole point is there's going to be rude and selfish people like automatically. That's just going to happen. It's going to be the case. And so that's why I question how much it matters, because it's like I just see that as like the truth. The truth is there's always gonna, like, everybody's so blind to how things even work, you know? Everybody's so blind to that, and it's just the only real difference is in America it's captured by greed. Like you're just allowing companies to basically take advantage of the human condition of ignorance, and I don't really understand how that makes any sense. Like, I don't know, it's just not a good way to be. So there's definitely I think there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems with that, but most of it probably stems from overall human ignorance, first and foremost, and then you have like American ignorance, I guess, second to that, because if I had to imagine, I think overall Americans are probably uniquely undereducated. I think especially at this point, It just seems like it's just not. So I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting amalgamation of things that occur. Of course, I think a lot of people would make the argument to me that certain talent or certain people emerge from America that you wouldn't see in other societies or countries. And I think that's a fair point, except I would make the counter argument that at this point, it doesn't even matter as much. Like, most of the great talent in America came from a earlier America, not really the ultra-modern America. The ultra-modern America, it still churns out talent, but it's very hyper-individualistic. We've talked about this before, how it's not, the new celebrities are not these like universally acclaimed celebrities. They're these people who, what am I saying? These universally acclaimed celebrities. They're these people who are just known in very micro scales, and I actually think that basically flattens the curve to where, like, societally, you're seeing much more like celebrity nepotism, and even if it's not fame nepotism, it's like wealth nepotism, and you're seeing a lot less of that. You're seeing so much less of your, like, oh, this person really worked through it to get to where they're at, and they're famous as a result of America's structure. You know, like, that's not really what you see nowadays. You know, you don't witness that anymore, if that makes sense. Like, you just don't see that anymore. Now it's basically, because things are so flattened anyway, it doesn't matter a whole lot which society you're in, whether it's like America or Europe. Could just mainly have to do with like different dialect factors. Like, if you have an American accent and you're famous in America, it's probably easier because there's a lower chance of getting like, oh, you sound funny. But then at the same time, there's some people would actually prefer some people would actually prefer like a foreign accent because then it sounds more striking. You know, so there's multiple angles to look at it in that way. But the whole point is, like, yeah, the American culture did produce a lot of interesting talent that you could argue is a result of kind of maybe the less humanitarian aspect of America. But I still don't really think that makes that much sense. And a lot of times, too, when it comes to, like, culture and success, those are, like, two very different things than, like, morals and ethics, right? I mean, yeah, just because we have, like, the dopest celebrities, that's not, like, solving world hunger. That's not really doing anything actually important. And you could argue that's just a side effect of a culture that is more, like, based on entertainment in the first place. Like, obviously, since Americans consume more entertainment, perhaps, then it's like, no duh, entertainment, it's gonna be like that or something. You know what I'm saying? But what does that say more about? Like, the impressiveness of a society or actually the stupidity of a society? Because entertainment and spectacle, I think most of its value, like, a human put it there. You know, like, it's not, most entertainment and spectacle, it doesn't really do anything, and oftentimes it's actually like a detriment. I mean, I think fireworks are a pretty good example of this. You have, like, fireworks, right? And people like them, they look cool, but then the negative impact is super high. Like it's not a good thing to do. But there's a human, like a human to a human, it's good. A human adds so much to it. We add so much in terms of kind of like an imaginative force almost to these things, you know? And that's, I don't know, I think that's like an interesting part of it, right? It's just like, I don't know. It's not real though. Like our culture and our pleasure, I think pleasure tends to be somewhat subjective. I think like hundreds of years in the future, they could look back at the art at this time and it not really matter. You're almost kind of seeing that now. I mean, here's a pretty interesting food for thought. You kind of hear stuff like, oh, like the classics or like the real music that like stands the test of time and all that stuff. And that's true. Like classical music has obviously made a much larger impact than music from the 1900s. And same with like the Bible compared to like pop-up cults, which there was a ton of them in the 1900s. But here's the thing. Even those institutions are starting to wane like incredibly. There's a lot of younger people now that don't even appreciate classical music or old music, and they are losing the education of a lot of these like traditionally ageless things. So it kind of leads you to think like, well, couldn't you make the argument that even any type of music is just, it's like fundamentally a waste of time? I don't know, because no music is going to stand the test of time, really. I don't think that like hundreds of years from now, if aliens came to a ruined planet, would they really see much of a difference in classical music compared to pop from the 2000s? I wonder. You know, I mean, from our perspective, we obviously know and we have some data. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic with this conclusion for obvious reasons. I mean, I'm pretty well aware of how I feel like there's a good amount of study done about like how classical music is good for your brain and stuff like that, and how a lot of times modern music isn't, and that seems to be like a fairly clear thing or whatever. But it's just kind of like a food for thought thing. I mean, what does the spectacle really accomplish? And is it not just a different means to the same ends? I guess is what I'm thinking. Is it not just a different means to the same end, where you have like, you know, yeah, I mean, you have like allegedly more sophisticated things, but is it the same as saying like, you know, well, I think it's true to some extent. I mean, obviously, if you're civilized enough where like, you know, a book really satisfies you, and then you compare that to somebody who needs like alcohol to satisfy them, I mean, you kind of see like, yeah, it's technically the same means to the same end, but you can see how some of those things are just not the same. So I guess the same could be applied with the classical to the modern, is it's like, it's not really the same means to the same end, because one is a more turnt version that is like pushed the hedonistic curve a lot further. I don't know. Does that make sense? I think that should make sense. And so, yeah, is that, I don't know. I don't really know what are we getting at here? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. It's just that, again, that idea of like spectacle and what's the actual value of spectacle. I mean, maybe you can judge a person by what they do for their entertainment, which we tend to, like, in modern society, at least from when I was around, we were always, oh, no judgment, no judgment, and, you know, all that stuff. But that's, again, that's kind of just a human creation, the whole, like, no judgment thing. It's definitely just like a human creation, through and through, you know, because that's not necessarily conducive to, like, anything. And actually, it's probably why judgment occurs, and it still does occur, because I think I've talked about this before. Like, good judgment is an incredibly important mechanism for humans, like, maintaining good values and order. It's just that what happens when you have, like, a completely fractured and, like, crazy set of values where now some people are evil. Well, an evil person is going to have different kinds of judgments, and their judgments are probably going to be inaccurate. And then you also have, everybody has, like, their own opinion kind of judgments, such as different colors being their favorite or not their favorite, you know. So moral judgment is when it gets tricky, because there's a lot of people who make a lot of judgment and it's just, like, completely inaccurate. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know, there's no accuracy to what they're saying. That's basically the gist of it. Because everybody gets, like, a rich person is going to judge poor people potentially for, like, a certain lifestyle choice or a certain, like, food decision, but you don't know why the person's doing it, right? As a rich person, you can eat whatever food you can really get your hands on, so you're going to be so much more disgusted by or judgmental of somebody who can't, and there's not really going to be any reason for you to think otherwise. I mean, that's why really I think it would do the world a pretty great good if we were to just make pretty much everybody poor. Like, I don't know. I know people talk about motivation and stuff with wealth, but I don't see how that's really it. Like I said, it's possible people are just that shallow, but I don't really think, a lot of times too, certain positions aren't even, I just don't know. I think, like, people who are motivated are going to want to do that anyway. They're not going to need, like, money and stuff. I feel like I know that in my heart. Like, I don't really see how, and I could be dead wrong about this, but I just don't see how it would matter how much money somebody would make. I think certain people are, you know, more capable than others, and they probably would just want to work, like, a more difficult job. And maybe, they should be paid, like, somewhat more, but I don't really think it's, like, you know, it needs to be, like, that much more, right? Like, I think there's a certain degree of, some people just want to do certain things. Now, there's certain jobs where it's like that. I know there's certain jobs where you have to kind of, like, nobody really wants to do them, so you have to kind of pay. You have to pay people higher, because there's certain jobs that, like, people only work because they're paid to do it, you know. So that's, like, kind of a different story. But there's a lot of jobs that, like, I think some people would want to do anyway, or maybe they don't even realize it. Well, because a lot of people, I think they don't really realize, like, money is kind of just a organizational tool, right? Like, it's not like if you took money away, it's not like everybody would just stop working. Like, everybody would just keep doing what they're doing. Now, maybe they got there because of money or something like that. You know, that we could probably agree with. But in terms of, like, maintenance, it's not like everybody's just going to stop working if they stop getting paid. I still think a CEO is going to want to be the CEO. You know, like, I don't think he's just going to lose interest because we eliminated money and made everything fair. There's still sort of like a societal angle to that, I guess, that I believe in pretty strongly, right? And that's kind of my whole point about the elimination of private property and how I don't see why that would just cause everybody to, well, actually, no, I do. I see why that would happen, because there are a lot of people, but I guess I don't see how that's just not what happens anyway. Like, even in the current system, even with how like aggressive we make it, I don't know if there's evidence that is proving or creating the best in humanity. Like, I don't see evidence of that. Does that make sense? Like, it's just not. We're starting to get to a point where it's like you're starting to miss talent. You're starting to focus too much on money. And that's kind of what people have been saying for a long time. So, no, I don't really think it makes any sense. And I think my kind of a system makes sense where, you know, if you can quantify everything. Now, people like split hairs about, oh, well, who's going to come up with the quantifications and how do you prove what's right or wrong? But I don't really think that's that complicated a lot of the time. I think it's just a lot of people think that it's like an opinion thing, but it's because a lot of people have like wrong opinions. You know, like a lot of people might disagree with what the truth is, but the truth is still the truth. And a lot of times it's like a matter of people not bothering to like, I mean, a lot of people don't have the cognitive ability to like figure out what the truth is. That's why I think they get scared about it. Because for me, a lot of these ideas, they just don't, I don't know, they don't really faze me that much. Like, to me, it's like, yeah, wow, like you could have like a overpowered ruler that makes certain incorrect claims, but it's like you would know they're incorrect. But even as it is now, people don't know what's right or wrong. Like, even now, it's kind of like the same thing. I mean, we have what we think is a better system, and I think I mean, maybe it was, but if you have an uneducated population, you can't continue to have democracy. Like, democracy will eventually fail if the population is not educated. You know, like, it's just impossible. Like, I don't understand how that's like complicated to understand. And we kind of see that as like a logical conclusion to things, I would think. I mean, you're going to get to a point where pretty much everybody is controllable, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I mean, you could have revolutions and stuff. We don't know what a revolution would really look like nowadays, but it's weird. It's just such a weird like situation to be in, because people are weaker than ever. They're more sedated than ever before, and they're not really hungry to revolt. People are also pretty divided too, I think. Like the politics going on, like, you know, people are so against each other. It's kind of crazy. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's just like, I feel like a revolt is so much harder to pull off nowadays, but I guess I could be wrong. Like, at the end of the day, if all the poor people like went on strike or took it to the streets, like, rich people do end up listening at that point, because again, their money only works if working people like work. You know, I think I've talked about that before. It's like you have to have poor people in order for money to even have value, and it's really only valuable because of the poor people. It's not rich people that give money value. It's the poor people who are willing to work for it. It's the people who work that give money value. It's not the people who pay. The people who pay the money don't even do as much half the time. I think we'll scratch an hour. Yeah, so maybe that was accurate. I don't know. Am I crazy for walking that long? Probably. What's my pace been at? Like 17, 18 minutes a mile. That's pretty good, I guess. But yeah, I guess, maybe I am being a little bit like cynical. I mean, people really could revolt if they wanted to. I just think we haven't seen such a severe sedation before. Like, I mean, we're really sedated. I mean, that's just impossible to deny. A lot of people, like, you have so much comfort, and that wasn't the case, like, for the French Revolution or the American Revolution. Like, back then, you literally had nothing else to do, but, like, why wouldn't you revolt? I think now people kind of value their lives and their ego too much, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of a weird thing to say because you hear people be all depressed and nihilistic now, but I think that in terms of actually putting their lives on the line, nobody's going to do that. Like, nobody's putting their lives on the line. Isn't that kind of interesting? Isn't that an interesting, is it dichotomy? I hope I'm using that word right, because I don't even know if I am. I'm going to have to look up what that means. But yeah, it's pretty interesting, isn't it? That's kind of how people move. And that's my theory, is that even though people are like nihilistic and they want to die, a lot of people, I don't know that they would actually do it. Of course, there is a growing number of people who actually do and need help. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying there's also like a growing number of nihilistic people where like they joke about it and they are really depressed, but it's a sedative depression. It's like, you're depressed because there's not like a reason for you to be alive, but you're still like, you don't want to die. I think deep down, a lot of these people, if they actually had to face death, they would be very scared of it. Like, I don't know. Even though they would never admit it, I think a lot of people are. Whereas a lot of times it's the people who like life that might be more comfortable with death because you're happy, you're fine. You're not really, but yeah, I don't know. It's just weird because we can achieve enjoyment easier and stronger and better than ever before. And yet we're running into all these problems. Like, it seems kind of odd. Like, we technically have progressed, and yet we haven't. I don't really know. How else do you describe that? How else do you get that? I just don't know. Don't get it. Well, I mean, you do get it. It's because it leads to, like, hedonistic burnout and all that stuff. And it's just, all the same, all the usual, like, same stuff. I don't know. Yeah, so, it is what it is. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of, I mean, really the only logical conclusion for me is you have to quantify things and you have to make things better. And I think that things genuinely could get better if we just were to, take some of the people who get swept under the rug and, we take some of the people who get swept under the rug and we lift them out of that place by tracking them. You know what I'm saying? Tracking them and seeing who has the most potential. And it would be a huge aid to what we have going on right now. I just don't see what reason humanity has for not doing that. It just seems like a good idea to me. And, you have these technologies that are coming out and they're just being used improperly. AI for entertainment doesn't make any sense. it needs to be used for like constructive things, and for constructive things, it could really be something good. But I don't think anybody really thinks or understands that, because it's like, it's just crazy. Just like super crazy. I don't know. I mean, this episode, because we are actually going to be home relatively soon. This episode, I feel like I kind of liked it. I know I'm not really at my best because it's just, I mean, it is a long walk and stuff, but I think I'm glad I was able to come up with something. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I could tell in the beginning I was kind of having it rough, but I think it just takes a while to like get in the groove of things. And then especially when I start to get back to, because most of the remaining trip was actually road I've already walked on. Like, I think it's better for me actually to walk on the same path, if that makes any sense. Now, it might sound weird, but I just really like repetition. So once I get on the same path, it's kind of like easier for me to talk things out and speak and stuff. Whereas when we were on that road I'd never been on before, it was kind of difficult to speak. I don't know. And it's really the same thing with the car. Like, I always go the same way home. So I feel like if I had to go a different way home, it would be pretty distracting. And yeah, like it would be pretty distracting and would probably mess things up. So yeah, it's just like, I don't know. But I kind of liked it. I mean, it's like something, it was probably meant to be. Like, I think it affects you to be walking for that long of a period of time, I guess. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, my talking was some of it, but my talking was just like my entertainment. I mean, sadly, you guys don't see what I'm seeing, but maybe someday I'll be willing to do that. But for now, I guess I'm just archiving my thoughts and my voice, and that's really all I have intention to archive. That's just where I'm at. So it is what it is. But I think by the time we get to after we've done this for like a year, I think a year from now things could be different. Or, I mean, maybe they won't be different. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't think that way, because it's just like putting expectation on something. And that's kind of like, I just don't know. Don't know how I feel about that. I do think we're going to end up scratching an hour, which I'm pretty happy about, because I was going to be pretty sad if we didn't end up like hitting the hour mark. And yeah, I guess I thought it would take longer than this, but maybe I only thought it would take like 10 minutes longer. I didn't really know what to expect. But I guess I should know I do tend to walk faster than what the map says the walking thing is, but a lot of people would walk slower than that. So they probably assume that anybody bothering to use the map to walk is going to be somebody fairly fit anyway, because I'm pretty certain like the majority of people would not be able to walk this at the speed that I walked it at. Just kind of like flat out refuse to believe that. I mean, I beat the thing by like 5 minutes, I think, or something like that, but there's no way the average there's just no way. From what I know about people, yeah, I mean, nobody would do that. So that's probably what they do. They probably assume that it's going to be people who are relatively fit who end up partaking in it. So, yeah, I mean, I probably should be winding it down at this point because I'm basically home, but I really just want to squeeze and hit that hour mark. I don't really think we accomplished much in this conversation. I was kind of just rattling things off, but I don't know. I guess it was all right. Definitely could have been worse. Like, pretty easily. I don't know. It definitely could have been worse. So there we go. We hit the big one. All right, guys, it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see you, schla. And I guess just to add on, it's been a very special episode of Walks with Schla, and maybe someday I will do this again, but maybe not. So, see you, Schla.